episode of the Super Bold podcast. I'm Fred Joyle, and I talk to people about their careers and the bold moves they made and maybe the times they hesitated along the way so that we can learn from all of that stuff. And today I have a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine. We go back a long way in the dental industry, Lorie Streeter. And, she is one of the people that turned, one of the cornerstone people that turned Association of Dental Office Managers into this enormous successful association. And that's where I spent a lot of time. 1-800-Dentist was pretty much an ongoing sponsor the whole time, almost from the very beginning. But, she's been 30 years in the dental industry. She's been around doing all sorts of stuff, but really, ADOM is certainly her legacy. But now she's VP of U.S. expansion for Max Assist, and we're going to find out about that. But we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff because Lorie and I have been around. So, Lorie, great to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Fred, it's so nice to be here. I can't believe we've known each other and been working together as long as we have. And you may not remember this, but I met you at ADOM conference number 2, and I was a vendor. I was working for Patterson Dental at the time, and I met Heather, I met you, and I think there was 10 vendors, and you were the keynote, and the rest is history. So yeah, it's been a good long journey, but we've learned a lot along the way. So it's really great to be with you today. I'm excited to talk about all the things. My whole family are big fans of Fred Joyle. In fact, my favorite moment is when my now 27-year-old son was probably 12. We walked into a grocery store. They had Fred water. And he told me, he goes, "Look, Fred even has water." I loved that. Still my favorite story.
Yeah. He imagines I had my fingers in every pie. But, one of the things that you did was always singing at these events. And it was just fabulous because it just kicked off those events every year. And, there's nowhere that I have spoken more. No event. I think I spoke 8 times.
For sure.
At least, and most of them from the main stage, but just consistently there, and just watched it get bigger and bigger. And it just became like so exciting to go there every year and see more people, and see my old friends and see what you guys were going to come up with for the opening. It was always breathtaking.
It's funny. The first year that happened, it happened by accident. I told our president at the time, Heather Colicchio, I was like, how about if I just, and that kind of thing. And people were throwing balls around in the air that lit up, and all kinds of things were happening. And it just sort of morphed into every year, what are you going to do? And I don't know. I had favorite moments. It was, you talk about being bold. I know that's a big theme for you. And I think actually saying that I would do it was my first bold step. Like after you say that, then I love this story. I remember hearing this. It was kind of a Tony Robbins, Bruce Springsteen story. And Tony Robbins was talking about working with a gal who had stage fright really bad, who didn't couldn't get up on stage. And he'd go, "What happens when you're getting ready to go up?" And she's like, "I feel I'm having a panic attack. My hands get sweaty. All these things start to happen. My heart races, my neck, the whole thing." So he was on an airplane with Bruce Springsteen, which I think is the story. And he was asking Bruce, he goes, "How do you, what happens when you get ready to go on stage and you're all ready?" And Bruce is like, "Well, my hands get sweaty and my heart starts racing." It was all the same things. And then he said, "And then I know I'm ready." So I kind of turned, the nerves of getting in front of that many people. It wasn't very many people when it started, but as it got bigger, it was the journey of a lifetime. It really was my way of connecting with every office manager. They needed somebody to champion them, and I just did it through music. So that was my blessing every year. Every year it was so fun.
Well, and that's a very powerful shift that you can say. When people say, "Are you calm when you go on stage or before you go on stage? Are you relaxed?" I said, no, I'm taking all of what would have been anxiety and I'm turning it into energy. I'm ready to go on stage. because of it. Just like Bruce is saying, it's like I'm backstage, I'm taking 3 really deep breaths because I'm like, I don't want to be calm. I don't want to be low key. I don't want to be low energy. I
Right.
just want to take any anxiety and turn it into energy that amplifies the crowd.
Yeah.
And and that's what happens. It's like it shifts the minute, like eventually it hits as soon as you hit the stage, it's game
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
you just, and whatever's going to happen. I've had amazing challenges at ADOM at one point. This is one of the funny stories. For what would make you anxious is I'm backstage about to speak and they're miking me up. So they're running the mic up my shirt and everything. And my shirt's half untucked and stuff. And then I hear Heather announce me on stage, backstage. She goes, and now here's Fred Joyle. And I'm like, what? Like somehow everything got speeded up. I thought she was doing a couple other things. So I like, and she goes, where is Fred? Where is Fred? And I come running out on stage. My shirt's half untucked. The mic cord is dangling from under my shirt and over my pants. I don't even notice for like 5 minutes. I just start presenting.
There you
And
go.
I stop and I look down and I said, excuse me, my wire is dangling here. Let me fix this. But it was like when people see you roll with it,
Yeah.
it changes everything because they go like, you own them at that point, because they go like, I'm terrified of being on stage, and I would be really terrified of something like
Something
that
happened.
happening. I would want to run off stage.
Yeah.
And like, no,
Absolutely.
no,
No, it's funny you brought that up because that happened to me when we were in San Diego. So every couple times a year, I get one of those funny migraines where you kind of lose some of your vision. I know some people get them. Us creatives, I get these weird things every once in a while. So I got one right before the opening.
nice.
And I'm like, go down and tell them I can't come on until I get my vision all the way back. So the opening was 10 or 15 minutes late, but there was no, and in that kind of a situation, think about the tenacity. And I'm not patting us on the back, but think of when I go see a keynote speaker, I think to myself, I know exactly what's happening to you. And I know how much pressure it is because you can't get sick. You can't not be in it. You have to be on all the time. And I think for me, that started when I was a young little girl and my mom put me in stupid beauty pageants. I shouldn't say stupid beauty pageants. Maybe some people like them, but you know what I mean? Like, you're being judged and you have to perform at a very young age. It just sets you up for understanding how to handle that level of excitement, expectation, and then also just the sheer adrenaline of it, honestly, because your body has to process that. There's no getting around it. So let me tell you, after that 10-minute opener, my openers were always 6 to 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, I was wiped out. Like after that, like don't come find me for like 2 hours, and then I'd start all over again. So it was a great
Yeah.
time.
Like you say, it doesn't matter. They don't care what, oh, I got jet lag or something like that, or I got a cold, or like the worst thing you can do as a speaker is go on stage and apologize for your condition. That's not what they
Yes,
paid for. That's
that's
not,
right. That's
that's
right.
all your problem. I mean,
Yeah.
I had an event once all day, literally from 8:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. I was doing this event, and I had flown from East Coast to West Coast, and so and actually it was the opposite, West Coast to East Coast, and like the time difference, I couldn't get to sleep. So, and at a certain point, when you don't get to sleep, you get anxious about how little sleep you're going to get, so you have even more trouble falling asleep. And it reaches a point where I reached a point where I can't take an Ambien. It's like I won't be able to wake up in time. And so 3 hours of sleep, I have to roll in and do a full day. And you just, it's pure adrenaline and a little
Yeah.
caffeine
Yeah.
as well. But then at lunch, I had, I had like an hour, and I'm on the phone talking to my wife Mira at the time, and she just has this wonderful sing song sort of voice, and was putting me to sleep. It was like it was like, oh, it's so nice. I'm getting drowsy. And I was like, oh no, I can't fall asleep because I'll never snap out of it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that was. But once you do that once, you go like, all right,
yeah.
I'm not worried. I can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think one of the things that people don't realize in any situation, and you and I probably have a lot of them, that people sometimes don't realize what it takes. And I think that's the point of my entire career. You mentioned I've been in dentistry for 30 years. It wouldn't matter. I love dentistry, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it would have mattered what vertical, what career, like, I don't think it would have mattered the industry. I think I would have been the same person doing the same thing, depending on where I would have landed. That, like, you and I were talking when we were first got on the call, like, we were talking about mistakes and things you do different and all that type of thing. And I really think that as you move throughout your career, you look at those moments where it defines you, right? It changes everything for you. And I've had so many of those moments where I thought, this is it. But funny enough, ADOM was so small when I started. The only thing I wanted, Fred, was for people to realize how important this segment, this office manager, how important they were to a dental practice. And part of what helped me see that, which is why I've always felt a big, strong connection to you, is I was one of the first 1-800-dentist clients. And I realized what a big part I played in the overall success of the practice. And I really felt that there weren't enough companies, dentistry as a whole, the ADA, everybody, no one acknowledged the office manager at the beginning of my career. And if I had some small part to play in that changing and shifting, then, my job is done, so to speak. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. And we knew very early on with 800 Dentists that our relationship with the office manager was success or failure. We were either going to die on the vine in that practice or thrive, all depending on the office manager's appreciation of what we were doing and what she had the team do to not waste the referrals that the practice was paying for.
Right.
And so when ADOM first launched, we went, heck yeah. We're going to do everything we can to support this organization,
Yeah.
And in both my books, I was like, in the resources section, it was like ADOM,
Yeah.
And every time I lectured, it was like, if you're not sending your office manager to this and paying, you're making a terrible mistake. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was so interesting about the evolution of things is that it's funny now, the juxtaposition of being where I am now and being able to look back and watch. And I love when fresh companies come in and they're like, well, yeah, you got to talk to the office manager. They're so important. I just sort of sit back and go, yep, they flipping are.
That's right.
At least now.
We're the ones who taught you that.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people don't know this, but when I met Heather, that particular time when you were keynoting, I don't even know the year. Gosh, it was probably 20 plus years ago. No, probably 18 now. We were in Clearwater Beach, Florida. And, her and I we really hit it off. And I had talked to her on the phone and I had pictured, someone like a Bette Johnson, like really tall, elegant, businesswoman in a business suit, bold, all the things. And she comes bouncing in shorts and a t-shirt and gives me a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I'm like, who are you? And her entrepreneurial essence, I think, and, we all resonate with this as people who've owned businesses and built mega companies and that kind of thing. There was just something about her. And so when I got the opportunity to work with her, she said to me, why don't you show me or tell me or give a presentation of what would you do if you worked for me? So I created, back then, I was the PowerPoint queen before people were even hardly using PowerPoint. I made this PowerPoint called Endless Blue Water. And there was a tip of a boat and all this blue water on the first screen. And I lined out 10 to 15 to 20 different initiatives that I would do to build, to help, to grow. And by the time I left last March, we had done at least 19 of the 20. I mean, there was one thing left. So I think having vision, to see something that needs to be changed, adjusted, supported, all those things. I think her and I were a very good combination. There were a lot of great people along the way that also helped. It was just her and I and an admin. And then it went to 15 people overnight. But I was sharing with another good friend of mine, you and I were talking about my son and my son's love for Fred Joyal. And, along the way, it was so consuming. We spent so much time. And I think people don't realize when you're building something of essence, something that's going to last and something that's going to be around for a long time, well past me, you probably, who knows? It takes so much effort. These things that we're talking about doing, really, really big things, aren't for the faint of heart. You can't just say, oh, yeah, we'll get to that later. You do it until. And I think that was the mantra that her and I both had, which I think served us well and served a lot of office managers well. So shift for me, I still love office managers, but just in a different way. So, I think it's always going to be part of my DNA is to support where I started.
Yeah, and people say, well, to me, because they're always looking for entrepreneurial advice, and I said, there's basically two types of people who get into business. There's people who say, well, I'm going to do as much as I can till but at a certain point, there's only so much I can do. And then there's people who go like, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Right.
The marketplace may stop me, but I'm not ever stopping me. So,
yeah.
And that's what happens. And they'll break through. They'll create a market. I mean, ADOM created a marketplace, but it was your vision that said, what do these people need? And how can we just keep creating it? I mean, there's this whole MBA for dental office managers as well, that wasn't enough. We got to go to the next level. We got to go to the fellowship level. We got to go to the diploma level.
Yeah.
Because, and just every year to see them in their caps and gowns with their families there and everything, it's just wonderful. And these mostly women became incredibly skilled at doing their job. They became, I say we because I had a tiny little bit of help in ADOM, but we turned them into incredibly high performing employees.
Yeah. And I've said all along that when you can find someone in any profession and they come into your business as an office manager, as a lead, and what all the names, and they treat your business like it's their own, boy, never let them go. I loved the dentist that I worked for 10 years. I worked at a DSO for 5 years. Every place I've ever worked, I have felt like I want to be there and act as if it's my own business. And all 10,000 dental office managers that we worked with at ADOM, and many more throughout the years as they cycled in and out of their careers. I mean, you even have to, have an emeritus status kind of thing, so it was life-changing to see people's lives changed. And I think for me, that was the high ticket moment, was basically saying, look, Heather, no dental experience. Look what Heather started everything. And, I think for me, I think she was just operating without an arm and shoulders. Like I just came along and said, and again, there were other people along the journey, yourself included, that were very instrumental in the growth and everything. And so you can only imagine, to my surprise, last March, when we were just told we were done, that it was so shocking. And it's defining, and I don't want to use the word fired. I mean, I think it's stupid, like whatever, it's corporate. You were one of the first people I chatted with, emailed, and you're like, yeah, this is what happens. Life happens. But for some people, I think it would be career ending. And I really could have said, just like we were talking about the Bruce Springsteen story. Here's one gal has all the same symptoms and she's like, I can't go up there. And Bruce Springsteen's like, I know it's time for me to go. It's go time, right? I had two choices. I could let it define me and be done and I don't know, wither away, go do something else. Or I could basically say, okay, well, this is my sign. Time for me to rebuild my career. I mean, how many times have you reinvented yourself?
Yeah, I'm losing track.
And I really didn't, it's one of those things, I didn't think I'd have to do that. I really thought that I was going to do that the rest of my life. But when I look back, there were signs that it was time to do something different. And I do think that that's where people miss the mark. If if the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, says this is a direction you're not going in anymore, you're either going to get shoved out the door, right? Or you're going to choose. And there's part of me that probably wishes I would have chose. that would have been a little cleaner and nicer. Like that would have been great. But the bottom line is, Fred, I was given a huge gift, and it was a gift to do something different that's exciting, that lights me up again. Like I know this sounds crazy because we're getting older, but damn, I some days I wake up and I'm like, am I like 30 again? Like I know I don't look 30, but I feel like I've got that invigorating, like kind of when I felt when I did Endless Blue Water for Heather. I felt invigorated again, like I was getting ready to build something new. And I think that was the gift in all of it.
And sometimes, I mean, what happened with 800 Dentists over the years is we made it such a great place to work that people stayed too long. And we would actually sit them down and say, you have to go, right? You have to chase your dream. There's only so much you can do here, but you're too comfortable. And they would, and sometimes they would come back in and they, after a month, we wouldn't say like, you're fired right that day. We'd say like, you got to start thinking about what's next. You got to, I was teaching them to make bold moves in their life and not get trapped in comfort. And that's what we do.
I love that.
One of the best things that happened to me in my young life was I got fired as a bartender, because the other bartender wanted my hours, so he convinced the owner that I was stealing. And so the guy fired me. I was like furious. I was like, one, I would never steal from you, and two, you'd never figure it out if I did. So, but he saved me. I was coasting at that point in my life, and it forced me to start the next chapter of my life. And again, as you use the word, it's a gift.
Yeah.
There's a term in Aikido, the martial arts, to learn to embrace the hit as a gift.
Yes.
And that's, and take a few minutes or a few days or a few months to grieve it, but eventually say, what's good about this? This happened. I am not going to undo this.
Right.
What's next? Yeah. I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. Got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And it's interesting that you brought that up about taking the hit, because I think, when I first started, and it's such a too long of a story for today, but when I first met my new boss and my new home, so to speak, I was not looking to, of course, many people came to all of us and said, hey, can you start another ADOM? Can you do this? No, that's been done. And that's the funny thing is so many people have asked, like, are you bitter? No, not at all. And I'll tell you why. Did I like what happened? Of course not. It was hard, but you and I've talked about this before. Hard things in life shape you, or you can let them break you. And I think if I didn't take the opportunity in that moment, I had a lot of interviews, I had a lot of opportunities, companies you would make sense to you, would be like, hey, Lorie, we've been working with you for years, come work over here. But I didn't jump quickly. I waited. I waited several months, and I just had a random phone call with a random dental industry friend who I had admired for a long time, who built an amazing business. And I really respected the people. And I was like, okay, well, I like this. Now, what about the product? Like now I gotta fall in love with the product too, right? So I had friends of mine who had been in dental practices a lot sooner, in their career than I had. I hadn't been in an actual dental practice for years. Look at it. And it really was, that was the easy part. It was so good. Like that was the easy part. The hardest part for me was, and this is where here's where the mistake comes in, that I hope people listen to. I didn't take the time to grieve, Fred. I just kept going. Yeah. And that was a mistake. I should have taken not more time in between jobs. I should have grieved and felt what I was feeling, because it started coming up later. Yeah. It started coming up months later.
It doesn't go away. You have to honor the loss and work through it. You can't suppress it. Suppressing doesn't, it just,
So where others were working through it, and I was kind of like, what's wrong with you? Pull up your big girl pants. Let's go. I had that attitude, and it hit me at some point. And, and not to diminish anything that's happened, new, old, doesn't matter. I think the lesson for me was you have to feel it and then let it go. You have to feel everything that comes up, because so many people, and that's what sparks, we could have a whole nother podcast about, it sparks disease, it sparks all kinds of things. If you hold on to something that needs to be released. So yeah, that was definitely a huge lesson for me was, looking back, I should have felt all the things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't. And here I am, got through it. And now it's you and I talking. So what could be better?
Well, and what I've started, this came to me once recently when I was talking to a crowd. It's because sometimes when you speak, you say what you've been trying to say, and for the first time in just an incredibly concise way. Because
Yeah.
the energy of the stage dials up your creativity. You're in flow state, like the
Yep.
all of this
Totally.
stuff is working its way around, and you are trying to bring as much value to these people as
As you
possible.
can.
And I said this, and you used the word define. And I said, when you become bold enough, all the mistakes you made, all the losses you have, all the failures no longer define you, they refine you.
Love it.
And that's
Love
it. And
it.
I said, it's because that's all you're going to do. That's
Yeah.
all you get to do
Yep.
is refine yourself. Otherwise, you let it define you. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I don't, I'm this, I'm that. I'm not a good singer. I'm not a good dancer. But people don't like me, but people don't love me, whatever.
Yeah.
I could have defined myself as an introvert because
Sure.
that's how people defined me when I was younger. And that's how I felt. That's how I behaved. But I didn't let it define me even then. I said, I need a way out.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
help people now. It's like, there's a way out of this,
Yeah.
out of the self-definition that is, you're not enjoying.
Yeah. It's so funny because a lot of times people ask me like, how did you even get to they're curious how I got to do some of the things that I've done. And I'm like, look, my dad was a really good HVAC guy and had a hell of a business acumen, integrity, and the way he worked. And he didn't go to college. He went to HVAC school. My mom was a brilliant hairdresser, creative. She should have probably been one of those people in Hollywood that designed costumes. She used to make all my costumes for me when I was a little kid. I won all kinds of awards for like not me, for my costumes. And so I came from a family that didn't value a college education. So I just jumped into dentistry. I was singing in a bar and a dentist came in and said, what do you do during the day? And I'm like, I work in an optometrist office. I was 19, really, really green. And I was married to my first husband and we sang, and he was an Elvis impersonator and I did Marilyn Monroe and Mae West and all these fun characters. And he's like, come to work for me. And you know what's so funny about that is that defining moment. You know what got me, Fred, is he said, you'd have Fridays off. I was like,
I
oh, as a
we have
singer,
very small dreams when we're younger.
as a singer and who's somebody who sang till 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday and Saturday nights, I'm like, this job is for me. So yeah, I went in and had my interview with him, and like, that's how it started. And people are like, well, how did you go from that to like, Bright Now Dental and DSO and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I read an ad in a newspaper and I applied. It was, you know what I'm saying? Like, people think it's very complicated to have a career because you have to have all these things. And I'm not, look, my son has a college education. I couldn't have been prouder when he wore that first generation sash, right? I was so proud, loved
Yeah.
it.
Beautiful thing.
However, I didn't, for me, I didn't need that. And now I look back and I'm like, okay, the accumulation of everything that I've done has led up to now I work for a company that values people. They value people's lives and time. And all the things that I always wanted to create in my own company, I found. So but I had to be, like you said, willing to not let what had happened define me. So the refining, pulling that right straight out of the book, The Alchemist, you think of alchemy itself is, refining something down to its purest form. Look, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I sure don't let a lot of things bother me like I used to. I don't have the ownership like I used to. I let the people who have that do that, and I can really focus on just being me. And I think that's been one of the boldest moves. I mean, I used to be such a perfectionist. Oh, Fred, it was so bad. And I'm telling you, it creeps in every once in a while, but I try to creep it back out because perfectionism, there's a lot of guilt there. When if you think about people being perfectionistic, they're guilty that they're not good enough, right? And the energy of guilt itself seeks punishment. I don't want to punish myself. I want to be the best version of myself without compromising. And I think, going through what I did this last year and redefining and standing back up, I hope that it shows a lot of people, a lot of office managers, especially since those are the people that know me most, that sometimes you're going to get fired from your job. Sometimes you're going to not get along with somebody at your job and need to leave. Sometimes something isn't going to be healthy for you, but it's not an ending moment. Nothing until we're in the ground, not breathing. There's no ending moments, right? It's just change. And that's what most people are afraid of. So I think the bold step is to not be afraid of the change.
And people don't understand. They say, well, I wasn't confident. That's why I didn't do it. And it's like, do you think Lorie was confident about working in a dental practice? She was a singer, she knew nothing about dentistry. I mean,
Yes.
boldness is about doing stuff when you don't know how it's going to go, and you
Yes.
say yes anyway.
Yes.
And you just say, I'm going to figure it out, or maybe I'm not, but I'm going to pick up something along the way, but I'm going to
I love
try.
that. Yeah.
And that willingness to try changes everything. Because if you don't need a guaranteed positive result to do it, then you're going to discover the more amazing things.
Yes.
Because you're going to push yourself out of your comfort zone and discover what you're actually capable of.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the other thing to think about too is, and I'm just going to use dental office managers because of course that's what I know the best, but you can either be a dental office manager that says, well, why would I do that? It's not my business. Or you're going to be a dental office manager that says, I'm doing this because if this was my business, this is the way I'd want it done. That's a huge, it's the same person. It's two different choices, and I think a lot of things come down to choice of how we live and how we operate. And I think that, I watched for years so many dental office managers make that good choice, make that I'm treating it this way for a reason, and not be bitter and not go in with a poor attitude. And those were the office managers that I wanted to work with, right? They're the ones that was that 10,000 group that narrowed that funnel down to, I don't just answer the phone, I do this. And I think that's the difference, is that choice, because, some people can either be victim-y or they can be perpy, right? So the victim says, oh, this is all happening to me and it's terrible. The perp says, yeah, well, let me make more of this stuff happen. The middle ground is always where the balance is, always where the sweet spot is. And that's, I believe in myself. I may not get it right the first time, and I know I'm going to learn from my mistakes. You're not mistake free, I'm sure. I'm definitely not.
People say, well, they see the success, and it's like, you have no idea the caliber of mistakes we made. That people would complain to me. They go like, I just lost $20,000 on this thing. And I would say, what I would give to make a $20,000 mistake. I mean, we made $500,000 mistakes with 800 Dentists. Okay. We sponsored the Angel Stadium for an entire season. It did nothing for us.
Right.
Okay. But there's little stuff in it. We had 800 Dentist Day that all of our team could come, and one of our team members sang the national anthem, and she crushed it. The place went nuts, right? Because they said she worked for us, and she was so great. They made her do the 7th inning stretch too.
Wow.
And so that it was the most expensive morale booster we ever did. But it's like, I can't get the money back. I can just learn.
Yeah. No, funny 800 Dentist story that I love to share. So when I first started working at ADOM and I had my endless blue water, the PowerPoint and all the things, one of the things I realized that we weren't doing is capitalizing on sponsorship, right? So And I had no degree. There was nobody. I marketed my band. That's where I got it. Like, if you can market yourself, that's the hardest thing to market. You can market for somebody else all day long, but you can market yourself. That's something. So I had, we, of course, Patterson was the first big sponsor of ADOM and all those things. I had no media kit, built the media kit. That was sort of my niche, right? I was the one that figured out how to put all those things together. When I started, it was one page. When I ended, it was 46 pages. I don't know. It's crazy. But one of the people that helped me get there, Brian Becker. I will shout out Brian Becker's name all day long and we still work together, him being at Wisdom and myself at Maxisys. We're still found our way back to each other. But he was a brilliant marketer. And I love working with people like that because they're the people that come to you in a bold way and say, what if? And I was that perfect partner with him, and I'd say, yeah, let's try it. Half the things that are in the media kit were because him and I took risks. He took risks and they paid off. And the ones that didn't, we learned and we moved on. But every risk we took, we built something new from that new risk. It was amazing. It was a great partnership, meeting of the minds, that kind of thing. It was awesome. So there are people along the way, I think, in your life. One of them for me, obviously, was Heather Colicchio, right? Sure. And those people come along and I said to her, what if? And she's like, okay. I mean, Fred, I think she gets mad when I say this, but like, she was paying me $750 a month. That's how I started. I was in a contract as a private contractor. I made $750 a month from ADOM. And that went on for several years. It wasn't until we built the momentum. But what my family saw, we knew that eventually it was going to turn into something amazing. So I think a lot of times things can start with a quarter and they're going to end up being, something really big.
Yeah. Really never take a job for the money. Take the job because it resonates with you and it's something you want to get good at or bring your personal value to. And I've been lucky enough to make a lot of money. And I can tell you the list of stuff that the joy was nowhere near the cost for many, many, many of those things. Yeah. And value is a very weird and subjective thing. And we spend way too much money on stuff of very ephemeral value and don't really savor those simple things that sometimes don't cost us anything. Yeah. But that stay with you, that like you would have, when something like that happens, you say, well, I just here's another crazy example. I am trying to work with this other website that gets you gigs called The Bash, right? So I kind of take anything they throw at me, even though sometimes the pay is frightening. And so I get hired to do an MC a wedding, and I thought, yeah, why? But the crazy thing was, it was 2 weeks away, and I went, I don't know these people. It was $400, okay, to do this. And it was a 2-hour drive from where I'm living. But I thought, you know what? I want to get some reviews on the website. So I had the day available anyway and stuff. And, it was 2 weeks away. I mean, I either had a booking or I wasn't going to get one. And it was so gratifying to do because she had the bride had some things she wanted me to do, which weren't going to be significant. But what I did is I took my boldness skills and I got 10 people to speak. There were 18 people at this wedding. This is how crazy small it was. There was no DJ, which is why they needed me. There was somebody playing a harp. That was the only music. And nobody wanted to speak. The best man didn't even want to speak. And I called him aside early on and I said, this is your best friend. If you don't do this, it doesn't have to be brilliant or funny or anything. This will gnaw at you the rest of your life. You have to speak. But gradually, I got one person after another to get up and say something. And it was beautiful. And the videographer was right there, had a microphone on them and recorded. I said, this is what the bride and groom are going to be watching and showing their grandchildren. It's what these people said. It was so gratifying to get to do that and to know that nobody else would have made that happen, that I thought I'd have paid $1,000 to get to do this. To do it.
to do
Yeah.
it. Isn't it funny how you remember those moments when, like you said, it wasn't about the paycheck that day. It was just about the experience that you had. And I mean, as we get older and longer in our career, I think, my team that I have now, Fred, they're not half my age, but I'm old enough to be their mother. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel that way, but I want to impart on my team, the people that I work with, like, you're right. I mean, it's not, money has to be there, but it's moments. It's the things you can put in your pocket that on a conversation like this, we can pull up at any time and say, this meant something to me, right? This was a time when I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. I mean, I it's kind of the story that I tell that's similar to that, but not quite as colorful, is I used to impersonate, right? So I did Marilyn and Dolly, and I had some really fun times when I could dress up as somebody else and sing and do those fun things. I was at someone had hired me to do Marilyn Monroe, and I was in like these bushes off to the side of someone's house, the guy that I was supposed to go in and do the, happy birthday, Mr. President kind of thing. So I'm in my gown and I've got the big fur thing on and I'm all dressed up, and my body said, you gotta go to the bathroom. And I'm like, there's no bathroom out here. What am I gonna do? So long story short, and I won't go into the details, I had two choices. I could either say, sorry, something happened, and go, but I didn't. I got myself together. I went in anyway, and the guy ended up having cancer, and I didn't know. And it was like his favorite actress of all time was Marilyn Monroe. And I mean, the sobbing, the people, I thought I was going to be like, kind of like you, like, what are they hiring me for? Like, what is this? Because usually I would perform a big performance, not like what do you call those when they go, like a singing telegram? I wasn't like feeling that, right? But when I understood why I was there and why I was placed there and why I was challenged to be there and how I had my own moment and those things, it was very definitive to me that I was put there for a reason. So,
Yeah.
people get anything out of this. It's like the moments.
Yeah. It's most of the time it's the unexpected thing. And this is what bold people know is they go in and they say, I don't know what's going to happen, but it could be interesting. Because sometimes it's, 10 times the value, without you knowing it, and not necessarily a dollar value. I always use the example. I was on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? I was a guest on it.
I watched.
I went for the last question, bet my $25,000 to win $250,000, lost it all. This is the short story.
Yep.
But I couldn't live with not trying the last question.
Right.
But the thing is, because I went for the last question, they repeated the episode endlessly. And there I am with a 1-800-DENTIST shirt on for the whole episode. And Jeff Foxworthy going, Fred's the CEO of 1-800-DENTIST, and they've sent 8 million people to the dentist. It's like, we got $1 million of publicity out of it.
No.
And it's because I couldn't say no. I had to try.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's funny. A lot of people ask me now, like the evolution of not being at ADOM and now being at Max Assist. They're like, how did you know this was the right place for you? What was it that showed you? I had my conversation with our CEO. His name's Jeff Barsotti, and brilliant, very, very good human. Had a conversation with him, and it kind of started like, oh my gosh, what the heck happened in my career to, what if? It kind of like the whole conversation morphed. And after that, Roger kept saying, you've been awful quiet the last couple days since you had that call. And I said, well, something very strange is happening. Their logo, Max Assist logo, it looks like a tooth with a cape on it, but it's actually an elephant with its trunk up, because elephants never forget. And so I have a little side hustle Etsy store that I like to buy antiques and sell them and fun stuff. And I literally kept finding nothing but elephants. And it went on for several days, and it was starting to freak me out. And I was like, I told Roger, I'm like, I don't know. I said, but I can't get this company, I can't get these people off my mind. So for me, the nagging moment, it was similar to when I met Heather. It was like an instant draw. And being bold, you can't miss signs either. You have to be open and willing to be in the field, like you called it, the flow. When you're in the flow on stage and things start coming to you, there's a reason for that. For me, I know this sounds weird, but for me, it happens when I'm in the shower, the water. I get so many ideas when I'm in the shower. Like I wish I had a notepad in there. Like I need a voice recorder or something, because that's when it happens for me. Pay attention to those signs, because they're trying to tell you. It's like a flashing sign that says, go this way. And for
Yeah.
me, it was elephants.
Yeah, and your angels are just working to try to say, you need to do this. We're going to
Yes.
help you. We're going to give you things that don't make any sense, so
Yes.
that you go, all right, fine, I will take a shot. I will do it.
Yes.
Because that window, if you don't, that window of opportunity is eventually going to close, and you're never
Yeah.
going to
And
know, or you're going to know that you should have. And that is
yeah.
one of the scariest things in life, is when you're saying I should have a lot as you
Yeah.
get in your later years, because
Yeah.
most of that stuff, you don't get another bite,
Yep.
you know?
Nope.
So,
This is our big deal, pal. We
so
did
what
it.
does Max Assist do? I want to know what they do. People have been going like,
Absolutely.
well, what is she actually doing? So I want to know
Yeah,
what.
no, real quick. Max Assist is a SaaS company. They're built of a dental consultancy. They originated out of Canada. Imagine a dental consultant who worked for years, built systems and all these things to make sure, cancellations were recovered quickly, that people were diagnosing treatment and actually coming in for it. There's all of these products out there, and we get compared to a lot of different people. But I'll tell you, my thought process, Fred, was how do I get back in the practice? How do I help at the practice level? Not just building great leaders. That's great. Built that community. That's great. How do I get into the practice? So Max Assist is a software company that actually assists dental practices in filling their schedules. They're like a communications platform, but so robust. Their AI component actually works with the office manager like an assistant. So
Mm,
it's very hard to explain without seeing it, but think of it as, in my opinion, we have a software that fills cancellations faster than anything on the market. And I think that's the name of the game now. People are canceling, changing, and the best part is you can take somebody that worked at Starbucks last week, and our AI will build a workflow for them that sets them up. Here's the most important thing to do. Here's who to call. Here's why you're calling them, and here's how to do it. So that was the moment that got me. I like full circle things. I like things that go all the way. And I remember from being a 1-800 dentist customer, it wasn't enough for the referral to come in. That office manager, that person up front had to say, okay, this is a real opportunity, and take it all the way to the end. So it had to be full circle. So I'm all about full circle, and Max Assist does that. So I landed in a place where I believe I can make an impact in dentistry, inside the practice, and for patients mostly. So I'm really happy, and I've been so happy to be with you today. It's just been, I don't know. It's like you and I are just chatting about old times. So I love
yeah.
conversations like that.
But I think if you're listening with us, this is the journey of life. It's full of twists and turns, and sometimes it seems like the worst thing is happening, and it's the best thing happening. And I think
Absolutely.
if that's what you take from this, that's what we want you to understand, is as long as you're breathing, there's something that you need to be doing. You need to be challenging yourself to do.
Yes.
So,
Agree. Agree.
Lorie,
It's
thank
been,
you so much. This has been awesome. I'm glad you landed at Max Assist, and have a
thank
great
you.
working relationship. And everyone out there, how do they find Lorie if they want to track her down?
Very, very simple. Maxassist.com/Lorie. Easy. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Lorie Streeter Maxed Out. I give a lot of advice to office managers and other dental professionals. And yeah, I'm just open to questions, and I'm here to help. So at this juncture in my career, all I want to do is kind of say my motto now is she left people better than she found them. And if I can do that until the day I'm not here, good.
Yeah, that's great. So everyone out there, Lorie Streeter, longtime friend of mine, and it's been great to reconnect with her and discuss our lives together. Keep on pushing yourself. Be a little bit bolder today and every day. Thank you.